Jana wanajitafutia unga, wacha waendelee. Na hiyo ni maendeleo. So that is who we are today. That there are 3 young people who are lampooning the president and they need to be arrested.
There's a miscalculation in how the political parties fund is disbanded, because that means when you create a party and people have associated with you and we all say that, Sisi, this is our ideology. And yet we have political parties who have been there for a number of years, so they're getting majority of the funding. So you're starting already at a disadvantage.
Yes, our president, who's a key figure, must then learn the art of choosing partners. Mm-hmm. That's where the sovereignty comes from. When you have the capacity to choose the master.
Welcome to Politikali Konekted, a podcast on everything politics and governance in Kenya and Africa. I'm your host, Diana Ngao,
aka Madam Speaker, and I'm Chaka,
aka the Bishop.
What an exciting episode we have here today. We are joined by an eminent personality. Many of us millennials, when we were young,
yes,
fell in love with the laughter that
the Satire.
Redykyulass brought to our screens.
Mtu ako na akili timamu anakwenda Amerika, badala ya kuongea maneno ya kusaidia Kenya tupate msaada, wanakaa tu wakina Kristo Kemo, wanakaa tu wanakula wanalala, badala na hiyo sio haki ya mwana Kenya mzalendo. Mtu na hiyo ni maendeleo.
It opened up a new world of thinking. And having first encountered this gentleman on our screen so many years ago, we feel like we've known him for a long time. And I'm sure many of you will identify. But beyond that, we have come to learn that he has done so many great things that you will also get to learn if you do not yet know. For instance, you'll be pleased to know that this gentleman here was Director of Youth Affairs in the Office of the President. He has been Director of Programs and Outreach in the State Department for Foreign Affairs. We are therefore sitting with a policymaker. And he has also offered himself to the service of country, having run for the high office of the presidency. What a curriculum vitae and profile. Mr. Walter Mong'are, Mheshimiwa.
AKA Nyambane.
Yeah, thanks, Bishop, for inviting me to this fellowship and this church, Madam Speaker. It's a pleasure to have you. I think the question you want to ask me first is on page... Yeah, okay. Just check it.
We may not even follow those questions.
Yeah, but thank you. For a moment there, I wasn't very sure who you were introducing, and I was like, wow, he was?
Yeah.
Then you mentioned my name. But it's a pleasure, and thanks for having me here on Politikali Konekted.
Thank you for joining us.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Karibu sana.
Yes.
Yeah, you are such a familiar face for some of us, majority of us who grew up like the millennials of us. And
you mean those of you that your parents forced you to watch me?
They did force us. They did force us, by the way.
I still miss them.
Remember even in school, people always trying to reenact Redykyulass. And for those people who do not know or cannot remember, I'd beg you to just Google a bit and you'll know that Mr. Walter Mong'are here has been in our faces for a long time, and he has played, and beyond even the comedy, as what Chaka has said, played a very critical role in our happenings, in our political happenings. But even before we start there, we always have a first question here.
All right.
Are you ready for it? When was the first time you were politically aware? When did the consciousness of politics come to you?
Yeah, when the 1982 coup happened.
What?
Interesting.
Yes, I was like, how many years old? If you start doing your mathematics, I was below 10. And my uncle then, Mr. Cornelius Nyambane, was the head of the Presidential Press Service.
Okay.
Hey, so you're politically connected.
Yeah, let's just say that. And so that he's the gentleman who walked from State House to go to KBC when it was under siege to deliver a message to the public that the country is back on track from the coup.
Wow.
So that is when I was politically connected.
Wow.
Back in the days.
Wow.
History is very, very
I know.
rich.
So how did this shape now your thinking of politics, of country, of governance? I mean, at a tender age of 10 years, how did it play a specific role?
Yeah. I think that's how we get inspired.
Okay.
All of us. If I look at my trajectory, if I look at the CV that you've described that I was not aware of, when I look at every path that I've walked, actually my uncle Cornelius did. He was the guy in charge of the president's communication. Then he later on went to be in charge of radio at KBC, which I later
you
became.
were actually.
Okay. He was working in State House, which I later became. He was serving a president, which I later served. And of course, then the rest, as you say, that's how you draw inspiration. Having acted as a president, then working in State House as for the president, I started to have a dream that I could actually be the president. Yeah. And I've just woken up from the dream
What do you mean?
to make it a reality now.
I like that.
Nice. I like that.
that.
I like that. I like that. Okay. So you, 1982 happens as a coup. Your uncle is also integral in the process. What happens now when you become, let's say, of voting age? What happens in your reality at that time?
For a very long time, I did not vote.
Oh,
Because
what?
as a youngster, we felt that, look, Chaka may know because he's slightly older in this set than you. So
How
he
do
will
you know that?
No, let's not go there. Ladies don't tell their age, so we won't even want to go there. Chaka, you remember during Moi's time, it was Mlolongo.
Yeah.
Okay, the voting was based on how many people are on your line, and they will
shorter
count them.
one, yeah.
You're shorter if your line is short. I remember one case where one MP lined up on the other MP's line. He forgot he's supposed to line on his own, and so our days there was no voting that you're casting. There was no secret ballot. It's how long the line was. A lot of intimidation and easy to get you onto the other line, and so. As a young person, we knew Moi would win even before the elections begin because he will start with 1.5 million votes.
Already.
And so we would wonder, what is the other guy doing? Would he catch up? And that's how deep the system was. And so I never grew up bothered to vote because at that point, the vote really never counted.
Yeah.
But as we progress, then it comes to secret ballot and everything else. As I mature in the space of democracy, I begin to realize that when you don't vote, it's not just that you've not just voted. It's a democratic responsibility for a citizen to actually participate in the processes like voting. So that's how conscious I became.
So which was a first election that you voted?
First election that I voted was in 2002.
The electric one.
Yes.
Yeah.
When all of us went to vote.
Yeah. It was an electric one.
Bishop.
Yes.
2002 I was of age to vote, right? If you do your maths, I don't want to have given wrong figures.
Only you.
Vote, I might say in 2009, and then when you look at my ID, I was 17. No, yeah. So we're good.
Only you can confirm that.
I'd like to take you a step back.
Yes.
You know, our history is just full of interesting facts. You know, you've mentioned that your uncle walked from State House to VOK, and it's not too far. He's delivering such an important message.
Yes.
that the government, the president is back in control.
Yes.
After an attempted coup.
Yeah.
I would imagine that he should be taken with police escorts, heavily guarded, to deliver this message, because it's not coming out on Twitter. It's not on. It's just
There's
this
no
is
social
the
media.
national broadcaster.
Yeah.
Did he share with you that story in detail about, or what are your thoughts about that? Because it's such a vital message that he's delivering. Yes.
I got to know because he shared.
Yes.
And when you ask that question in terms of, when you look at it, the irony of a very important message being delivered in
By
the
a
most
man.
simplistic manner.
Yes.
And then you contrast that with today when we go to China and we want to go plus our cook, we want to go plus our shamba boy, we want to go plus our neighbor, we want to go plus
Everyone and
everyone
anyone.
else who can be on that plane. Because, yes, we are talking about broad-based. And so it's really broad in its sense. And so that's the contrast that I can bring it to today. And it's such an irony.
Yes.
Yeah, that things can be done in a simple way. That's what I learned from that. That it doesn't have to be sophisticated.
Simple and yet powerful.
It doesn't. My uncle, until he shared that information with me, we didn't know. That tells you that this information. I've worked in government and I've been privileged to work in high offices. That it's necessary for information to be guarded. It's not a question of secrecy. It's not a question of hiding information, but you need to know. It's a need to know basis. And so that is what I see from that scene of my uncle carrying a very special message for the public in a very discreet manner. And even by the time you get the message across, it has integrity. Unlike today, when I tell you, by the way, I'm going to tell you tomorrow that today
This is what's going to happen.
This is what we did.
Yes. Yeah, and which brings me to my next question. Given you being around, family who have worked for this larger than life figure at this point in time, and country is petrified of this gentleman. His name sometimes would be talked about in whispers. And you can see how he's running things. I therefore find it fascinating. Where did you draw the courage to make President Moi dance Lingala?
We will be right back after this clip. Whoa. You're taking me back in time. And the question of courage is actually found in the Bible. Very, very elaborately and very clearly. You'll find, do not be afraid, be of courage, severally, are noted in the Bible. And I think as Gen Z then, because our time, we were Gen Z, and we realized that satire and comedy is actually more effective and more lethal than protests in the streets. And so what we call the courage that you're talking about, to me, it was innocent stupidity. Really? Because it requires you to be very innocent. It's not even courage. Because at 21, you would not think like, I'm courageous, I want to do this. You're doing this out of fun. You're doing this innocently.
Yeah.
And I think that's what KJ, Tony, and I started in university, out of innocent courage. That's what I would call it.
I like that.
And we didn't know the extent that it will go. We used to interact with our chancellor then, Moi, quite often, because he would come to campus for various...
Really?
Remember, there were no graduations without Moi, my friend.
Exactly, he was a chancellor.
Moi was the chancellor of all the universities. He was the chairman of all the university vice chancellors. And I find that a very interesting I would do a PhD on that, on how a leader who's not educated to a level of a doctor can be a leader of all the doctors and professors, and that explains the 24 years. In my opinion.
Yeah.
So that's the journey.
Well, was there a time that when at this point when there's Redykyulass has come up and there's a satire and the comedy, was there a point that you got to perform or maybe got to hear that President Moi got to see these skits?
Okay, that question, you guys haven't asked me anything. I've been waiting for you to ask me question one.
I told you.
No, seriously, it's okay. Let me put these questions aside because I've been waiting for them, and I re-asked, I searched, and okay, you guys have made me comfortable.
We want to first get to know the Nyambane that we knew.
Moi, it is said, because I don't know, that the other day when the Butere girls story, the echoes, and it actually became the echoes because we hear them on this side of the story, even when we've not watched the play and we don't know them. But so they became the echoes actually. In our days, people imagined that we had it easy. We didn't. We were even at discussions in the floor of parliament brought by Mzee called Sharif Nasir, that there are 3 young people who are lampooning the president and they need to be arrested. We had our fair share of intimidation. At some point, that is why it took me about 26 years to graduate from university. At some point, we had to stop our education. At some point, Tony, who was working at the university, was interdicted. So we had our own fair share of the abductions that you experience today in our days. So we didn't have it easy, except for the Mzee. Everybody else around Mzee, he's the one who was against us. It is said, again, I don't have facts, but it's said that when they went to speak to Mzee and tell him to get these 3 young people to be arrested, it is said in his voice, vijana wanajitafutia unga, wacha waendelee, na hiyo ni maendeleo. So that is who we are today.
Wow.
I love that you have done that because that was going to be my next question. But I like that you mentioned Butere girls because indeed, we didn't watch the play, but
the echoes got to you.
Yeah, they got to us. And I'm just wondering because you said that, yes, you had at that time experience some level of intimidation. But now when we see this with young kids, I'd like to hear your thoughts on what played out during the National Music and Drama Festivals that we saw play out on telly.
The drama festival, the Kenya Drama and Film Festival, is a home to more than 10,000 young people, school-going children.
Yeah.
And other universities. So it's a huge platform that is beyond Butere girls. It's very unfortunate that we reduce such a platform to a discussion of a play. For instance, there is a school that won the play category from, I think, one of the central counties. And the play was spot on in terms of what the emphasis that we've laid from our academics and the emphasis we've laid on grades versus knowledge, where a guy who attained an A is employed by a guy who had a D. And I'm sure you know many guys with the Ds who are running government and running it well. So don't go there.
Some are incredible because they didn't go.
That plays a reflection of that. And so my thoughts and our encouragement on this platform as we have this discourse, let's look at what the role of the platform, the Kenya the Kenya Drama and Film Festival, the Kenya Music Festival does. Let us go beyond looking at the Butere girls alone and start to see what else took place in Nakuru this year.
Yeah.
How many of these young people have been empowered, inspired, using the echoes to now highlight the positives that took place. We appreciate what the organizers go through. Other than the Butere situation, have we done an analytical assessment of how successful the platform was for other young people?
Yeah.
I was there. And I was part of the opening act. And during the opening act, you do know me as a musician, and you do know me as a guy who's grown up in that platform of theater. And that's how we became who we became before TV opened up to us. So that to us is a sacred platform that inspires all of us to be where we are. And there's a young man who danced with me on a song that I did 22 years ago called Sweet Banana. Bishop.
Sweetie, sweetie banana. Anything I get it, okay. Sweetie, sweetie banana. Anything I get it, okay.
Bishop only knows ekek on the entire song. If you asked him to sing the chorus, he won't, but it's okay. And the young man came on the stage and performed with me, and the PS for basic education, Professor Bitok, actually gave the young man 100,000 shillings.
Wow.
Out of 3 minutes. So we are focusing on the tear gas, but we are not looking at the successes that the platform has given us for this year. So I would want us to interrogate and have a discussion beyond Butere Girls. What else happened?
Yeah.
On that note, now that we're speaking about theater and your history in theater and how you then really introduced the country to satire in a big way. Well, before that, the closest thing to satire, I stand to be corrected, was the Zangalewa and their dancing.
Yes.
But that was really just comic relief in dancing. But satire, which is very intelligent comedy, and coming from a discussion of Butere, what are your thoughts about what it says about country, about the regime? Does it reflect accurately what's happening, or is it an indictment, a condemnation of, and the more satire you have, does it show that the government is doing poorly?
My thinking, Bishop, one, as we have this discourse of the echoes that we received from Butere Girls, who personally I empathize with our children, and I empathize with the teachers. And what we're talking about is probably what was contained in the play that is Butere Girls that we're talking about. And so as we empathize that they never really got to showcase it for us to see exactly what it was, and I hope one day we get to see. Satire is a reflection. It's a mirror of whatever goes on in the country. At the same time, it enables us to pass a verdict right there after you watch the clip, after the satire clip comes on. And so the role of art, that's what I would come down to, because that is the discussion that we are having here.
Yeah.
The art is a reflection of society and the things that are going on in our society. Now, it's up to us to reflect on them for us to either change or adjust where we need to adjust. And I was having a conversation earlier with Bishop, and we were saying, what will Redykyulass do if they were on today?
Yeah.
And I'm like, Redykyulass would be out of job today because the politicians are more funnier than any act would be. I mean, we really don't have to act what is going on. And I was telling Bishop that satire thrives and comedy thrives and art thrives in an environment where there's secrecy, where you don't know what is going on in the boardroom, and then satire brings it out. Today, we have our work very easy as artists because you don't have to do anything. Our president is very funny. They are always on top of cars and calling each other names and so those days it was concealed. You wouldn't know. So satire thrived then, but right now we really don't. To us, right now it's tragedy going on in the country because the mistakes, the goofs are glaring.
Yeah.
Take an example of the latest, in my opinion. When you go to visit another country, diplomacy requires, and I was privileged to work at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and diplomacy requires that you be careful what you say, even if it's true, as a state, as a country. it's very tragic for us as a country to go onto a platform that is aired across the world, and you're talking about our neighbors. Like you see in Kenya, we are like these, our neighbors, Uganda and Tanzania, have not reached where we are diplomatically.
Yeah.
Is that necessary? So for us, from a satire perspective, enyewe hatuna job. Sahi hakuna job ya kufanya comedy. Juu comedy iko
The
na
comedy
watu.
is already...
Yeah, the comedy is already out there.
I really like that. And now that you talked about now also like diplomatic missions and the president going to like currently like his trip to China, we saw something circulating online. I don't know if you saw it, of the president of Vietnam Gas Corporation, and he was basically calling Kenyan officials a joke. Is that tied to what you're saying in terms of Kenyans were already seeing the comedy? And now that they themselves, even outside the country, can sniff and see their seriousness.
You see, that is why we exist. That's why we, as a country, we are members of the United Nations, because we exist as a member state.
Yeah.
And so it's in the same light that those other nations are making reference to us as a joke. And diplomatically, of course, that is not necessary. Anyone that's abusing our sovereignty. I would not be kind to whoever calls our country a joke or our officials a joke from outside. It's what we know when we were growing up, Bishop. Your mother will always defend you, even if you are wrong publicly, but until you get home. That's when you realize that mom was not just protecting you. Your mom was holding her anger in public, waiting to get home. I remember my mom, Sabina. One time I went to sleep at our neighbor's house. I was young then. And, it's always easy to see that your neighbors have better things than you do, which is the typical scenario of today. We are visiting every other country and not noticing just how much we have here. So my mom at that point came for me in the middle of the night from my neighbor's house and brought me home. And when we got to the house, she locked me outside. And she told me, but you wanted to sleep outside. And so she actually locked the door. And for those of you who know where we come from, sometimes the last mile electricity may not have arrived, but it's last mile, so we are waiting for the last mile. And that to me tells me that whatever we have as a country, the sovereignty of the country, the self-respect. Even if we are a joke, it's our
joke.
It's not in the space of any country to call us a joke. It's not in the space of any leader to call us a joke. I will not take that polite, regardless of whether we know we're jokes or not. That would be my first.
We can ridicule our president, but we're not going to allow
another person to do that. Yeah,
that's profound.
I like that.
And it's interesting you talk about China. And
is this water for taking?
Tafadhali.
Tafadhali.
Just to be sure,
it's not for looking.
I
see the name Redykyulass in a new light because power has a way of taking itself too seriously to the extent that the excesses it displays and enjoys can also be taken seriously when it shouldn't. For example, when we talk about the delegations that are going out there, satirically, satire exposes the ridiculous elements that shouldn't be taken seriously in amid serious business. Now we have the president in China. Arguably, one ridiculous element is the increase in our debt burden.
Yeah.
Things have already come to a boiling point at home. There is a lot of debate about our debt situation, which is quickly, if not already, has become a crisis. What are your thoughts on that state visit and what the foreign powers are playing at in gladly giving us money, which will have to be paid back, us mortgaging the future of our children. What is the ridiculousness in that, if at all, to you?
I want to put it this way. Why would our president visit another country? It's because we are looking for partnerships. We are looking for strategic alliances. And I want to believe that it's, to me, if you're out in China to do strategic borrowing for infrastructure development, that's encouraged. However, with the departure you're talking about, our president gave us an assurance in his campaign trail, and he was very categorical. Hatutaenda kuborrow China.
Hatutakuwa tunatafuta madeni kutoka China na mahali ingine ambayo sasa inatuletea kisirani.
And he's in China, so that's why I said we don't have. It's laughable because we say one thing and we do another. I think we are now doing what we call reckless borrowing, which then creates dependency. Now you have to keep borrowing to fill the hole that you're creating. And so to us, to me, that's not strategic borrowing. Strategic borrowing, which we must have, there's no country that can develop if you don't have strategic alliances and borrowing and partnerships. So it's within the state infrastructure to do that. But we are now mortgaging not just money, but even the sovereignty of the country. When you look at the bouquet of what we are receiving, Jomo Kenyatta Airport will be taken care of by this country. This infrastructure, Lamu will be taken care of this country. You are basically mortgaging not just money, but the sovereignty of the people. And so, to me, the aspect of debt, it's actually killing a country. Not just because we won't be able to pay. Well, we'll still be here. Our children will be here to pay what they don't know what happened. We are paying for those of us who money was borrowed in 1963, 1964 after we became independent. In the 70s, there's borrowing that you, Diana, is paying. Madam Speaker, you're paying, but you have no idea what it did. Right now, we are looking at the infrastructure development in the country. Look at the expressway, a very short, very powerful project. And thanks to the Uhuru administration, which I happened to work in, what happens is where the problem is. We borrowed to get the expressway, which we need to expand. We need to be thinking of expansion. But what are we doing? Collecting from that road, yet we've already finished paying. So what are we still paying for?
That's a very good question.
So instead of looking at it and saying, let's expand this nice project that is creating a solution in the city.
Yeah.
How many other expressways are we thinking of building? The president was in the US just before the last administration. He came back with a bouquet of support and structures and ideas. We were going to start immediately the Nairobi Mombasa highway. Well,
what happened?
What happens? We are now, in the 2 years, we have excited our populace. We have excited our people. We've told them this is coming. I have been watching the devolution period of more than 10 years, and I'm wondering, with all the billions that have gone to the counties, is there one county that has built a new city? Is it that we don't have money? But when I look around, we have enough to give in churches. Occasionally 20 million,
20 million
here.
Yeah.
And our foreign minister would be out saying we don't have 120 to pay for something, but we gave it on Sunday in a church. So there's a lot that
and
doesn't add up.
There's something very interesting you said, mortgaging our sovereignty. That's a very powerful phrase. And it makes me wonder, ordinarily when you owe somebody money, you're almost beholden to them. So in terms of mortgaging our sovereignty, how much of our influence are we giving, or rather, how much are we allowing ourselves to be influenced beyond the repayment, to them even influencing our our policy issues
Policy
in the country
making.
to even make it favorable for them to bring their goods here, for instance. And I ask that also in the context of, and I hope it doesn't put you in a difficult position, but you did work in the State Department of Foreign Affairs.
Yeah.
How difficult is it then to interact with some of these countries when they have this big stick because of the money they've given you? How difficult is it to advocate for policy positions that are in the interests of the public, but at the same time, you don't want to offend these foreign countries? And for us who may not have gotten the opportunity to appreciate the intricacies of these discussions, how much influence do foreign powers have over our country?
I can,
Hiyo ni swali ngumu.
ni ngumu lakini tutafanya attempt. Kuna vile wanaweza stop cameras tukafikiria. Bishop, usiulizange maswali yenye nataka research. But having been in this space for the opportunity I've had to serve in public, I've realized one thing, that interests check in first. And there are various interests, and they are geographically mapped. For example, China would be easy to trade with us, infrastructure-wise, because they are on the side of the East Coast that we have. So it's easy to get goods and services from China into the country through the coastline. On the other hand, the Western friends like America can only give us capacity that is sort of anything other than goods. And therefore, both of them require some sort of loyalty. This is what I see with the big stick that you're talking about. Because it's all about interests, they are not here to serve our interest. The power is where our president, who's our key figure, must then learn the art of choosing partners. That's where the sovereignty comes from. When you have the capacity to choose the master. Because both of them, they're masters, trust me.
Yeah.
We don't have the capacity to match them. So we better be allies. But it's the art of choosing that you want to be loyal. Both of them require loyalty. Above everything else, I believe this. Before my president leaves for China, the reason why I'm saying that I must respect the presidency, because tomorrow I'll be the president and I would expect that I'll be respected. How wonderful would it have been for this conversation to occur before you get onto the plane? Why do we have to learn about these goodies from China? In fact, we are hearing it from China radio or China TV, not even through our own media that we have. Because our local media would wait to be given information, because hardly do they travel in the delegations. So to me, whatever the case, we will have to choose who we want to be a partner to, based on what the people want, not what we think the people want. I think we are more and more feeding the people like the people are our children, yet the people are our masters who have given us the responsibility to be in power, to be in positions of leadership. They are our masters. But we hardly consult them. We have piecemeal things that we call public participation, which we do within 2 hours. And we say, you guys came, we call you into a meeting, we give you water and soda, and then we tell you there was public participation. But how much are the voices of those citizens influencing the decisions they are making? Yeah. So I hope, Bishop, in a way, I've attempted the hard question that you asked.
You've inspired more questions.
More questions.
But stick to the script. Speak to the script.
But I just want to chime in here and just ask, because you said that it's not that we can do strategic borrowing, but now it's gotten too reckless. And you're saying that you're also wondering, like, kwani we don't have money in Kenya, right? But then now there's something in parliament that's current there in terms of, it seems that MPs and governors are fighting about a certain fund called CDF. What are your thoughts about CDF? And how do you think what is its impact whether it is there or not, what is the impact of CDF?
CDF is, in our days, Bishop, Moi managed to use the CDF effectively because he never told you it was the CDF. He never defined it. That is why he would always tell you, ntatuma MB yenu kutoka kesho, hii barabara itakuwa, which is a departure from when we now defined the funds.
By the way, hawezi fanya hivyo.
Let's have a serious conversation. It's about CDF. Yeah? and so, to me, CDF is a lifeline for the members of parliament.
It's a lifeline.
Yes, for members of parliament. It has nothing to do
with the people.
It's a lifeline for the member of parliament because that is what he's using to chain you on when it's called development. If you're not towing the line with the MP, he's actually deciding what CDF will do at the county level. If you ask me, that fund, if we really, really are serious about it, we should decentralize it to the county assemblies for it to be effective if it's for the people's development. Because what is the role of parliament?
Yes.
Oversight, representation, and legislation. Niambie development hapa iko wapi?
And how can
classroom?
And how can you develop and then still oversight?
Exactly. And nowadays, the parliament we have, our wonderful members of parliament have become an extension of the executive. So the line has been blurred because they even go in public and say whatever the president says we do. They say we impeach Gachagua, we do. And so anything else you say, Mr. President, will do. Is that oversight? Or maybe that's how, Dana, Madam Speaker, that's how you guys in Parliament are doing this, right?
Mimi ni Madam Speaker wa Politikali Konekted.
Oh, sorry, I mistook you.
But I see what you're saying. So do you feel like politics is more performative, in Parliament, than it is about policy and legislation?
Parliament, to me, is a wonderful play and stage. But the problem is, normally every play has a powerful ending. And maybe that's the powerful ending that we are waiting for. Because when you think about it, it's after every play that we applaud. And I think that is what Parliament is doing. If one member of Parliament is not showing off what he has accumulated, another one is showing off how much he can abuse the other. Another one is showing how they can have very flashy hashtags that are going around. This is what I've done. This is no. And I had one not necessarily a member of parliament, but I had a governor on public platforms saying, last year I bought 7 trucks. When did we personalize public offices? And that is what is killing most of us. I did this, I did that for you. I'm doing. Who said you're doing us a favor? It's in the Constitution. It's the right of the people. They voted for you. Development is not as how you feel, you deem fit. That's why words like equity exists. So to me, it's a wonderful stage for performance, which we are waiting for the curtains to fall. And it's funny. And having been both an actor and both in public governance, I know the difference between acting and actually delivering service for the people.
Which brings me to my next question. And having worked in those offices and walked this journey, and you clearly have a command and clarity of the issues. At what moment of awakening were you jolted, or was it a gradual realization that you should run for high office? How did that happen? What inspired it? What was the journey that you walked to get to that crucial decision?
That makes it very easy, D, for you, because, Madam Speaker, the next question will be so easy because that's a very easy question. 1, I acted as president. 2, I worked for the president. 3, I realized, wow, I can actually be president. Thank you. Bishop,
Yes.
it's constitutional that every citizen above 18 can actually seek to represent the interest of his or her people or the interest of the country. And therefore, it's not a preserve of the few. It's tragic that we have privatized what we see as public service or elective posts. It's like it's a club of those who have money that can continue to rotate themselves within a certain play. To me, I equate what is going on in the country like a volleyball team. And like the other games that we see people coming from the bench, volleyball, they rotate. If you watch volleyball keenly, those guys who are in the front move to the rear, and they keep moving like that until the game is over. So I think we have played that game far too long, where we have privatized legitimate representative offices for the people, where we are now playing as a club. We are painting this picture that you must have money to run in certain offices. That's not true. That's a fallacy. And so long as, one, you are 18 and above, and you're politically conscious and politically connected, as your show is, because you're connected now, we're having a conversation with you. It is your right to seek to be in the office, to serve people. Those positions are there for service. As Walter, I realized it's so easy for us to be on this platform, get viewers, share all these ideas, but not rise to the occasion and present yourself for positions of leadership. And so that is what I did as Walter, to go beyond being a keyboard warrior, to go beyond criticizing government, to go beyond pointing out what needs to be good or what needs to be done. Why are you spending a lot of time telling people what you think they should do? Come and do it. Today, I have no time. That's an advert. Bishop, I will be back after the commercial break. So, Bishop and Madam Speaker, if we do not stand to be counted, we don't step forward to present ourselves, we have no business complaining. It's unfortunate that we, and that is what I did then, to listen to the voices of the young people. When we did the bid for the presidential agenda, and I'm sure we'll share some pictures for you to show, it was not about me. It's about the people. It's about the young people who surrounded me and gave me the band of a captain and said, you need to go and represent us. And I think that's the kind of politics that we want now to go into, where it's not about you. I don't want to convince you to vote for me. I want you to send me to go and work for you. It's different. So it's not about what I thought. It's about what we shared. It's about what we said. It's about, taking responsibility. I don't envy the president because he probably doesn't sleep with all the dramas that he has. And maybe because of one reason. If our president, and am I being paid to advise him? He has enough advisors that he pays.
More
But
than
let me
enough.
say this as an observation. When you go and you're the president and you have a cabinet, I will go to bed. Haki ya Mungu, nitaenda kucheza golf because niko na cabinet. Singekuwa na work vile president na work. Ninge delegate. Ningewacha kila mtu afanye job yake.
He may have shot himself on the foot.
Hata China siendi. Nitatuma minister aende. Lakini sasa unajua mimi naona president anataka kwa kila kitu. But I'm not surprised because our president stemmed from 1992 Y2K, the team that was supporting Moi. Because if you remember well, for those of you who don't,
Young.
let me remind you, Moi was Mukulima, number moja. He was farmer, number one. He was educator, number one. Kila kitu was around Moi. All the schools became Moi. And so our president is a student of that regime. And so he's doing exactly what he learned.
We actually call him Index 001.
Yeah, I don't blame him. It's a style of leadership, but I guess it has its own sad bits. and maybe that's what we're experiencing right now. It will, and I like what the President Ruto is doing, is making it easy for us who want to run in 2027.
Which brings me back, back to your presidency. Going back to your presidency, there is what the Constitution provides and avails to us in terms of the rights we should enjoy. And you've said very well that if you're above the age of majority, unaweza simama, jionyeshe,
hebu jitokeze, step out, tukuone.
But you also alluded to some of the challenges that have been there traditionally. You need money, you need connections,
it's a lie,
you need...
it's a fallacy.
What was your experience having stood and, we know you in fact were you were the first to qualify.
Thank you. Did you get that, cameraman? Can you repeat?
The first to be cleared.
So what was the reality of the challenges despite the ideal framework that the Constitution has provided for us?
Play this clip if you can, of when we sat there and with all the young people who took me to Bomas, and we listened to the late Chebukati make a declaration. And after that, we went out to strategize on how to present our ideas for consideration to the populace. And we had sufficient time. 3 months is a very long time. 24 hours in politics is a decade. So we were comfortable that we will get an opportunity to share ideas and begin to have conversation on issues as opposed to personalities. Because far too long our campaigns have been revolving around people, individuals, and to some extent, political outfits. I don't call them parties. They're outfits, because tell me what one party that has presented a presidential candidate in the past couple of elections as a party other than our party. We presented ourselves as a party with a presidential candidate because we are a multi-party democracy. And therefore, what is the space of a party if every year we are going to create outfits that get you to power and become an Uber? When is the last time you asked the Uber guy or the Bolt guy or the Faras guy, when did you ever ask them where they're coming from before they took you to a destination? And when you reach there, did you ever ask them where they're going? That's what our political outfits have been presenting to us. Yet we are a multi-party democracy. And so the journey that you're talking about was not just a journey about Walter Mong'are wanting to be president, but a journey to provide for alternative thinking and ideologies that are issue-based and are representative, because there are 300 plus young people who took me to Bomas. So it wasn't just about me. And so when we got cleared and we knew we had an opportunity to present ideas to the Kenyan people to now make what we call an informed choice beyond being forced between a hard rock and what do they say?
A hard place.
A hard rock and a hard place. And I noticed today the hard rock and the hard place are all together as one. So they call them broad-based. So I hope, Bishop, in a way, I've responded to what you've asked, because it wasn't just about me. It's about believing in institutions that must then work. If you have all it takes to be of a certain elective post, if you believe in yourself and you present yourself, it's not about money. It's about the capacity for you to follow the rule of law, and the provisions that are provided for in the Constitution will make it easy for anyone to be presented. I know that times we and that's why I don't like the fact that we kill our national broadcaster and we invest a lot in private media. The national broadcaster is mandated to give equal airtime to anyone who's vying for an elective post by law, because those are your taxes. Those are our taxes that are servicing a national broadcaster. But guess what? Majority of what we do goes to private entities, which is business. I understand. Everybody is in business, but not for state resources.
Yeah. Let me just ask, because you talked about the importance of institutions. Yeah. And now, in your experience, because I mean, it was your first time running for president. Yes. And now you went to IBC, you were like, okay, you are the first candidate to be cleared.
Yeah. And I was given security.
Oh, wow. That's what happens.
Just you, that's the bishop.
State property.
Madam Speaker.
Nafaa kuwa na
When
security.
you
Umesikia, ukiniita Madam Speaker nafaa kuwa na security.
hiyo yako ni ya
Ni ya podcast.
watakusaidia. Kuna jamaa anaitwa OT anakuanga hivi, tutakupatia moja.
Sawa.
Yeah. It's constitutional. Once you are cleared as a presidential candidate, you're given security because you become state property. Because if anything was to happen to me as a candidate, then there will be no election until after 6 months. So it's very costly. So that's why they'll rather give you security.
Yeah.
They give you chase cars. I was given chase cars from a Vigilant House. And after 6 days, I saw them leaving as I was seated at the balcony. I wasn't taking calls from my friends because now they had to deal with my PA for 6 days. Imagine what I would have done for 5 years. So
what happened?
In those 6 days, after we were cleared in Bomas, we went to now sit down and start having a strategy, implementing our strategy because we had a plan. And after 6 days, we are called to Bomas at 2:40 to go for a meeting at 2 p.m. So the letter is reading, come for a meeting at Bomas at 2 p.m. And the letter is sent to us at 2:40. I never know how it works.
2:40 p.m. So
yes.
40 minutes after the time.
Yes, we were supposed to be at Bomas. Why? We asked, why are we coming back? You've cleared us. We are in Naivasha trying to see how we can get votes because that's what matters from now on. And we were told, we have found some discrepancy on your papers. And so to me, it's a contradiction of you have complied with the checklist, and based on that, we are clearing you to go and start campaigning. And all of a sudden, after 6 days, then you have a discrepancy on your paperwork, and you need to come to Bomas at 2 p.m., at 3 p.m. So I don't understand. And at 4 p.m., a press conference is called that revoked our clearance.
Hiyo inaitwa mchezo wa
Based
town.
on, and again, there are clips, and I hope this platform can air some of these clips. Again, here we are told we did not present a certain document, and which, in my opinion, was not a requirement at that point. So that's why you cleared me. So if you cleared me, then...
New information on Walter Mong'are as relates to lack of academic qualifications. I invited him to appear before me today at 2 p.m. to clarify the issue. He failed to honor my invitation, and pursuant to Regulation 43(2)(c) of the Election General Regulations, I hereby revoked the nomination certificate of Walter Mong'are of Mocha Summit Party dated 2nd June 2022.
When asked to explain why the panel had cleared Mong'are in the first place, Chebukati appeared to be at pains explaining the decision.
There were letters from...
Because we've had issues with IBC since even its formation. Very many candidates like yourself or aspirants like yourself find injustice in that institution. I wonder now, because there is a process of constituting IBC again, I wonder how do we get out of this rut? Because it seems to be a cycle of injustices, or let me not call it injustices, procedural issues. You know, how do we get out? How do we as Kenyans? Because I mean, that's a constitution, an institution, a public institution. How do you think we could get out of this rut?
It's consciousness.
Okay.
Right, like what we are doing right now.
Okay.
Being conscious and sharing information, and the electorate being informed of where stealing begins to occur. It's choreographed. It's choreographed in the formation of IBC from the beginning, with an end in the mind, which has nothing to do with the processes and procedures. If we were to follow the rules and regulations, we are a country that is governed by the rule of law. We are a country that is democratic. We are a country that has checks and balances. Why don't we just allow for those checks and balances to take
to work.
If we just do that, it will not be a hole that we are in. We are allowing institutions to be manipulated for personal gain. But sometimes I like it because for those who continue to manipulate them, they forget that power is only Bishop can pronounce this word. Power is
transient.
Yes,
Transient.
I come from Kisii. Very difficult
Hutaki
to ningesema vitu zingine. So power is
transient
things. And they create systems that favor them when they're in power. They forget that tomorrow they are coming out. So sometimes I'm like, it's okay. It's a very short time. For a very long time, we thought this regime, tutafika siku gani 2027? How many days are we from 2027? And so the verdict is coming very soon. Whether it's in favor of or not, we must be a populace that is informed, that takes interest in our constitution. What does it provide for? These processes will be easy if we just make reference to those documents that do exist.
Allow me to be a bit pedantic. I want to
what's the meaning of that? Let me Google. Deep search.
I want to
I'm a chat GPT.
I want to go back to this shopkeeper of yours and the analogy you gave.
Yes.
And I want to challenge the example because you were state property, so you did not belong to yourself. So the example is all ours.
Yes.
My challenge with the example you gave is that our audience may be left with the impression that you were cleared by mistake. And whereas in reality, citizens were denied an opportunity to cast their vote and make their choice for their preferred candidate.
Yes.
And I say it will leave the impression of a mistake when in fact you were validly cleared, from my understanding of the issues. And it seems to me that the analogy is one of, you paid with a 200 shilling note and you were given the last or one of 6 loaves of bread. Then baadaye the shopkeeper comes to your house and says, no, you should have paid with 450 bob notes. Instead of a 200 note, and the math notwithstanding.
Yes.
Maybe for the benefit of those who were disappointed, dejected, or denied the political right to vote for their preferred candidate, you can enlighten us as to the circus that was going on at Bomas when they revoked the candidature.
Thanks. I appreciate the fact that we want to speak. One, it's very, to me, it's very emotional. Knowing just how much the young people around me sacrificed to make that candidature a reality. Two, the fact that this blatant abuse of procedures and processes and office. Because when we presented our papers, through every desk, because IBC is not a place you just walk in and walk out with a piece of paper, okay? And so we went through the normal process of identification and checking every document, including an ID, including a membership to a political party. And I wonder why then we allow for coalitions when we are checking for what political party do you belong to. With all those processes and the laws that exist, we were cleared by IBC to run for office. 6 days later, you come up with another situation created that we did not present a physical degree certificate when we presented our papers. When IBC, in its wisdom, defended a position in court earlier for other candidates, that the degree aspect is not a physical connotation, It's not a ceremony, it's the process. And therefore, you're eligible to run as a candidate. Having done that, where then do they reverse that gear and say, no, we want the physical document, which was now in this case a technicality. Introduce a technicality regardless to fulfill a short-term goal of getting Walter out of the ballot and therefore denying people an opportunity to an alternative choice on the ballot. That is what went on at Bomas.
I wonder, sorry, I'm just thinking how much of these games are played that we don't know. You know, now that you're sitting here and you're telling us this your experience, I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm like, how many more people are denied this right?
So that I can conclude, in the event that, as Bishop says, sometimes you don't want to leave things for people to start imagining.
Yeah.
Number one, we were qualified to run
For office.
There's documentation and evidence for that. There's the Commission of Higher Education, Commission of University Education clearance as it's required. There is clearance from the university as required. There is clearance from the ethics and corruption requirement cleared. You even have the police certificate of good conduct. So everything plus party membership and everything that you need, that you require for you to be cleared. And we had all that. The certificate that they keep talking about, they talked about, is available. And the only thing that they managed to use technically is processes. For example, they never gave us a fair hearing to present our defense. If there's anything that you have against us, you call us for a meeting and in 2 hours you've made a decision. So where is the fairness?
First of all, they
Bishop?
call you for a meeting after the time for the meeting.
Yeah, and so I hope that also clarifies on a few things. Bishop is a stickler to details. Yes.
It does, because as you rightly said earlier, part of our duty is that of creating awareness and sensitizing. And when we, the Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. When people are aware that, because it must not have been easy to begin that race, to convince all those people, to travel across the country, to enlist people, to set up structures, to lobby, to mobilize resources, to go through all those checklists, to ask people to believe that you have the right ideas for their future. And then you are the first to be cleared, and almost arbitrarily, not actually arbitrarily, they say, because we do not want you on the ballot, we are going to say that you didn't give a physical paper. And yet, ironically, many leaders have given papers without having stepped into a classroom, because it would appear the conferment of a degree is the knowledge you've attained in order to be able to deliver, to be able to sit in a position to determine policy and the like. And that's a critical element, because you presented your transcripts, you were on the dean's list. So if anything, you are overqualified, because people who no, I hear, anyway, let me not invite trouble.
Bishop. Tutarudi watu wakishatoa sadaka.
And you see, going to those processes, even the political party, you have a political party with a very interesting name, DNA.
Yes.
You know, Kenyan DNA, Democratic National Alliance.
I was waiting for you to say what is DNA.
Democratic National Alliance.
The slogan is your voice, your power, which you're actually advocating for people to voice their thoughts. Yes, Bishop.
Yeah, so that maybe in the spirit of awareness, because many of our audience members have been curious about political parties and how they actually work, realizing that when we need to be serious about these things. So they've been asking us, and now that we have you here, you've set up a political party from the ground up, and it has delivered a presidential candidate.
And getting cleared.
Yeah, educate us, enlighten us.
One, the political party is the representation of the people. That is why people are given nominations to represent their people in parliament through the political parties. And therefore, the political parties belong to the people. We at the DNA would not be priding ourselves to be a party if it doesn't belong to people, if people have not formed it from the ground up, as you said. And therefore, it's provided for in law and by the Constitution, the aspect of association. And for one, we all can't be giving our views. For 50 million of us can't give our individual views. We give it through a system called the party. That's why we call ourselves a multi-party democracy. Because there's the space of a party that then takes continuous civic engagement to the people. Continuously, not occasionally, but as a requirement by law. That is why we have an agency, an independent commission, ORPP, as an office that then safeguards the interest of political parties. That is why we, as Exchequer, we provide for, or Exchequer provides for funds for political parties. Only that the fund is administered to a few, and therefore beating the purpose of a political parties fund. I would believe that a legitimately political party that is registered, approved, and compliant like DNA, we would expect that we would benefit from
the political
parties fund, but we don't, because we don't have an MCA or we don't have an elected member, but we are a registered and recognized political party. And so it is not an easy thing to get political parties registered or cleared, because it's a process, as you've said. It belongs to the people. There are many requirements that the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties has laid out for one to become a party. And one of those requirements is for you to have members. So therefore, if you need to have members for you to be compliant, then it means you're representing the aspirations and the dreams of people. It's no longer a private entity. We hear a lot about party leaders. We hear a lot about chairmen of the parties, like I'm the chairman, I'm the national chairman of our party. But it's not about me. It's not about the leader. It's about the people. That is why we have what we call the national delegates conference, that then brings all the members of the party for a decision to be made. You can't change a logo without the involvement of the membership of the party. And so that is the role of a party in a multi-party democracy space. The only sad bit is we are not given an opportunity, which now DNA as a party we are looking at doing. It's not about delivering civic seats. It's about creating an environment, an enabling environment for people to have democratic discourse.
I like that.
We want your voices to influence the decisions that are being made by the party. We want you to be engaged continuously, to understand the rights, because if people are not informed, they make the choices and the decisions they make because there is no information. And so that is what, as a party, we are looking at. We are looking at ourselves beyond a party that delivers seats, but an institution that enables for democratic discourse to occur. Yes.
Wow.
When he says wow, did I make a point?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay,
yes,
okay.
you did. Yes, you did.
Wow. I thought you were saying wow because the show is over.
And even among just getting like members in a political party, there's also right of association, right? So I'm starting to see that there's a miscalculation in how the political parties fund is disbanded, because that means when you create a party and people have associated with you and we all say that, Sisi, this is our ideology, and yet we have political parties who have been there for a number of years, so they're getting majority of the funding. So you're starting already at a disadvantage because you don't have funding. How are you supposed to have 24 offices when you don't have running and you don't have funding? I'm seeing like it's like a system that's rigged against you. So it's a democratic system, but really no, it's policed kidogo. So it's not really democratic.
I didn't say that for the benefit of the viewers. I didn't say that.
That is Madam Speaker's.
That's Madam Speaker's opinion. We are a party. DNA is governed by those rules that you're talking about. We are not going against them. But thank you for championing our needs and our expectations. We would expect that so long as we are compliant, so long as it belongs to the people and we have proof of membership, then we should be able to benefit from the taxes that we pay, so that we can then continue to discharge the mandate that you expect us to do of civic engagement all the time as a party. So continue praying for us. That requires prayer.
because otherwise it's almost like a state department that is being denied funding. One might make the legal argument that if you are a registered political party and you're registered by this constitutional office, the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, you at the point or after registration become a public institution.
Yes, which we are.
And that's why political parties are anticipated in the Constitution.
Yes.
So we arguably have public institutions that are being denied taxpayers' money.
Yes, when it is existing and when it has been allocated.
You've had quite a journey, a wealth of experiences. And clearly there's so much to offer. You have said that 2027 ni kesho.
Ishafika.
Ishafika.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested to know, what do you have in store for these people who are still your supporters?
Yes.
From these lessons you've learned, the experiences you've garnered, the insights, the battles you've faced, how much more prepared are you to go to battle for your supporters?
You said, what is it that I have in the store? We will need to go to the store and check. And then probably we come back to the show. Then I can show what is in store. The decisions that I would make as a person are subjected to the membership of the party. I can only present aspirations and dreams and ideas, which then the membership of DNA would then see what best to do for it. As we said right now, as a party, our responsibility is to provide an avenue for information to reach as many people as possible. What does it take to become a member of a political party? It's a very simple process on your phone, *549#. If you so wish to join us as a party, please look for DNA. Our party code is 090. Thanks for joining the party.
Sorry, I'm already a member of a party.
We must encourage that majority of us, before you participate in the democratic processes, please be a member of a political party.
Yeah, it's very important.
Okay, it's only then that you're even eligible to vote. Okay, it's only then that you begin to participate. You by the way, you can vote when you're not a member of a political party. But how much more would it add value if you belonged to an ideology? Because then it doesn't close you. You start measuring all the things, all the ideologies that are being floated around by political parties, and you begin to see which view you want to identify yourself with. Being independent, in my opinion, it's a constitutional right, but it's almost playing a game when you're outside.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I also think that another role and importance why people should be members of political parties is because political parties nominate people to represent certain constitutional office, like I mean in terms of wards, the counties and stuff. So the crop of leadership that we are seeing going and aspirants going to be candidates, it starts to be filtered from the political parties. So by being a member, I have a right, or rather, I am part of that process in terms of saying when there's nominations for candidates, I can say, hapana, this one, I don't want to represent me. I want this one.
Yes.
And I can even say, all these other members, we are saying we want this one. So on top of just being like part of an ideology, it's also a filtering process for you as a Kenyan to be part of delegating that power to a representative. Because if you leave it and say, you know what, I just want to be a voter, and yet someone else is choosing for you who is going to be on that ballot, then really, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thanks for challenging us.
Sorry, I'm very passionate about political parties and just the role that it plays in democracy, because I think that's where, if we get that right, then we'll get very many other things.
Bishop,
right.
we at our political party will make an effort to share as much information as we can, so that then we attract the right voices and people who can come on board and participate and change the country for a better. We believe that given an opportunity, it's a turnaround. 10 years is sufficient for us to turn around as a country. It's not difficult.
And on that note, and you know, as we come towards the end of the show, I'd be interested to know, does the DNA party have a position on the current constitutional amendment bill, or are there discussions going on around that bill, or whether there should be another one, or whether there are issues that are not included? What's the position of the chairman of the party and of the party?
First, we have a Secretary General, who's Dr. Barack Muluka, who's the spokesman of the party. And because we are an institution that first respects our how we engage with public on certain positions, we have the Secretary General as the spokesperson of the party. And anything then I would be having, we do know that when you hold office as a chairman of the party, any opinion that I would have would easily be mistaken to be an opinion of the party, which I would want to respect the hierarchy and structure of our party on how we want to release certain information regarding certain things. As an opinion, as Walter, the Constitution is not a document that is subject to piecemeal pinching to suit needs of a particular time. That's why it's the Constitution. That's why, again, we use such a very heavy word, promulgation. Yeah, thanks. To show that it's not a document that you wake up and change at will. When you feel like it now suits you, you need to change this. It's a process. And therefore, as Walter, I want to uphold a lot of regard and respect to the Constitution as is. And if we ever want to change anything on that sacred document, it's not Parliament or a few people. That's why we provide for the referendum. If you want to change anything in the Constitution, then please do the necessary provisions that it has given you on how to change it. But what I would think right now, we are mutilating the Constitution to suit our current needs. And so long as we think it's serving us now, we don't care about tomorrow. And to me, and even we would encourage our members of the party to look at the Constitution as a sacred document that needs to be upheld as it is. And then if there's anything that we need to change, then take it back to the people through a referendum to make a change that is fundamental. Because again, the Constitution, just like any other living document, is subject to amendments, but not to be abused for gain or for short-term gains. It must be a fundamental change that actually shifts the landscape and changes millions of people's lives. Not because we want a position to be inserted there for somebody who we think we need to keep him as a retirement process, wacha tumpatie ka retirement hapa, retire nayo and insert it. It's not. That's what we would hold.
Yeah, it's what you said earlier in terms of privatizing public service, and I like that, and I could say I join you in that opinion in terms of upholding, and not only just upholding but respecting the Constitution. So now that we are at the end of the podcast, what is your...
Don't finish until you ask me this question.
Now that we are at the end of the podcast, what is your parting shot? Because we've seen Walter as a young boy who now the coup, and then now acting as the president, and then working for the president, and then running for office, running for the presidential seat. Like what, I mean, that's...
And hoping to run, you just finish.
Okay, I say, mi niseme, si wewe? Si wewe, niseme. Walisema.
Nimesikia.
But yeah, what is, that's a very remarkable journey. And I just want you maybe to speak to the audiences and just tell them, like, what is your parting shot? Because you've been on the other side, and now you've been in government, and now you're not, and you've also aspired to run a country. How do you keep that fire burning, and how can they keep that fire burning?
And just to add to it, ultimately, what in your conversations with God do you see as the legacy of Walter Mong'are?
Thank you. It's very sad that we're coming to the end of this podcast. I think we should come back again tomorrow and the day after and talk, but thank you. Two things. As a legacy, I want to believe that as Walter one day, I want to be one of those people who are counted first to have stood for the spirit of our country. And that spirit is contained in the constitutions, the aspirations, the dreams of our people. And I would want to first uphold and hold that document and show it to the people at some ceremony first.
And you hold it for long enough before you pick up the sword.
Before I pick up the sword.
I see what you're alluding to.
I may not pick the sword so fast, because if that document empowers people or entrenches the rule of law, and not a buffet to cherry pick what you want to bite and for a period, I'd want to hold that document up in the sky and up in the air and show it to the people. And when I would have put it down, and when my term is over, I want it to be in history that there lived a man who lived to the spirit of that document. And if that be the case, I guess that will be a beautiful legacy, in my opinion.
Nice.
Yeah.
And for our youth, because you said that a lot of youth were behind you when you were putting like a message of hope, because I won't lie, a lot of people are quite I can't say disillusioned with everything that is happening. And for you who's walked this journey, being in government, being out of government, it's easy to also get exhausted. So maybe a message of hope for them.
At the moment, I think we are living almost in fear. For the young people who would want to speak out, to share ideas, they're beginning to live in fear. And I want to encourage them. First, it's good to be fearful, because it's even in the Bible. When you fear God, when you fear certain things, you begin to do the right thing. At the same time, I want to encourage our young people to quickly turn that fear to faith. That it is again, when it talks about faith, is believing in things that are yet to come, because you can see them tomorrow, or you can see them coming. So that is what I would want to encourage all of us, that we quickly turn our fear to faith and begin to believe in ourselves and begin to be out there to say the right thing. It's very easy to spend time criticizing people, talking negative about so and so. It's good enough. How much does it add to yourself? How about we begin to use the platforms and the opportunities we have in our days as Redykyulass, when we were on TV, on TV. I wanted to say on TV and on TV. It was only on TV. Today you're on TV, you're on TikTok, you're on YouTube, you're on name them. Very several platforms. How about we start sharing? Like, we are very grateful for Politikali Konekted platform, beginning to create platforms that we share this knowledge and information as we go around. When we are empowered as a people with knowledge, then we begin to make the right decisions. We do not need anyone else to tell us what to do when we have the information. In fact, you're more confident when you know something. And so I want to encourage that, one, it's not all lost. And this country, there's a meme that was doing rounds that the country is going to the dogs, and the dogs have called a press conference. They have said they have not received any part of Kenya, so don't blame us. We want to encourage us that all is not lost.
Wow.
I think for the first time, I am looking forward to 2027, not for what we do not want, but for what we prefer, genuinely, for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Take it away for us, Madam Speaker.
Wow, what a very enlightening conversation. It's one thing to watch someone on telly, but it's another thing to just hear your journey. So thank you. Thank you for honoring us. Thank you for being honest and just sharing your journey, your ideas. Asante sana, we appreciate it. And I'm sure also our audiences appreciate it, because one of the key things for this podcast is that we want to raise the civic awareness of not just Kenya, but the continent. So asante sana for being part of that journey. And we want you back here again, tafadhali. So you have to promise them utarudi.
Yeah, because that word, kurudi, I'm back, really inspires me, because the guy used to act like he used to use that word a lot. Mulizema Moi ataenda na I am back. Then I miss that mzee, because as we end the show, that's how we used to end our performances in State House. How we finished performing, because I was in Lanana school and we were with Precious Blood. We could always entertain mzee. And at the end of the performance, like we finished right now the podcast, he would reach for his pocket and Mugo wangabi. The moment you start counting plus the cameraman anasema wapi ya mistress akuja nione, Mungu awabariki.
Nice. Asante sana. So you've had it first here with Walter Mong'are, who has acted as a president, worked for a president, and ran for office as a presidential candidate. So before even you do anything, just press subscribe and stay connected, because as you've heard here, not from us, from the source himself, that we must inform our people. And what other way to get informed than on Politikali Konekted? So keep it locked and see you next
soon
time
on a screen near you. Something. Wow.
It's a rap like Moi.
Watu umetuongezea mpaka 41 minutes. Wewe stories zimeisha.